I had switched your tongue. 7 p.m. Everybody's here. If we could rise to the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the March 11th, 2024 business meeting of the Milton Board of Education. May we have a roll call, Ms. Griffin?
Megan Doyle.
Here.
Scott Fermenter.
Here.
Tracy Irby.
Here.
Tom Koba.
Here.
Lauren Maller.
Here.
Una Petrowski.
Here.
Christina Preet.
Here.
Mike Smith.
Here.
Cindy Wolf Boynton.
Ms. Boynton asked to be excused this evening.
And Susan Glennon.
Here.
9 members present.
Thank you. Public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience who'd like to make public comment this evening? Any public comment? Yes?
that before student reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. Student reports. Sorry. Student reports. I believe Dr. Law goes first today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not here yet.
Okay, so would you mind going first?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jocelyn Gonzalez. This past month has been filled with a number of joyous events, experiences, and immense amounts of Lion pride. So let's dive in. To kick off National Kindness Week, Foreign began their new recognition program, Lions Lead with Love, which provided students and staff the opportunity to recognize good deeds among the Foreign community, simply by scanning a QR code and filling out a Google form describing the deed the student performed and why they should be recognized with a certificate and a medal. Congratulations to our latest recipients, Gabe Benessi, Carmelo Nuno, Jamie Capozzi, Layla Holland, Andrew Bishop, and Isabella Sanchez. Recently, Foreign held its annual elective course fair for the school's underclassmen. Booths of each elective were spread out all over the gymnasium for underclassmen to walk around and learn from fellow students about the different electives they could take throughout their high school careers. This past weekend, the sophomore class had their disco-themed ring dance at Grassy Hill Country Club. We hope they all had a blast. A huge congratulations to our boys basketball team for making it to the quarterfinals of the Division III state championships. This was the first time they had made it this far since 1998. The boys fought long and hard, but unfortunately lost against Wheeler 45-43. Great effort, boys. Can't wait to see what next season holds. This month, the Main Street Mirror will be releasing its new issue on feature stories. Writers learned about what a feature story is and how to write stories in different genres, such as behind the scenes, how-to, trend stories, consumer guides, historical features, analysis pieces, and personality profiles. Great job to the amazing staff writers and editors for making this paper so special. Speaking of the journalism department, I want to wish a huge congratulations to all of those inducted into Foreign's first chapter of the Quill and Scroll National Honor Society for their excellence in journalism. We couldn't be more proud and can't wait to read more of your articles. I'd also like to wish a huge congratulations to my fellow co-editor-in-chief, Olivia Salai, for being chosen as Connecticut's Journalist of the Year. Outstanding job, Olivia. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you once again this month. I look forward to speaking with you in our next meeting. I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julian Seviano. I hope everyone has had a great couple weeks, because I sure have. This month was very busy with so many students being inducted, being recognized for their athletic abilities. Faith Doyle was announced SCC All-State First Team, and Ava Diedelbaum was announced SCC All-State Second Team. Sarah Schumann awarded All-State for cheerleading, and congratulations to Foreign Wrestling, who had 5 boys compete in the State Open and 4 girls compete in the Girls State Wrestling Championships this past weekend. Our Foreign Drama Department put on quite a show last weekend. They performed the play Once Upon a Mattress, which takes the folk story Princess and the Pea and puts a fun little spin on it. The actors and stage crew performed 3 different shows across 2 weekends ago, which were all very, very good. Congrats to the main stage cast and crew, and thank you to all of our seniors for the last 4 years. As well as Mr. Stammen and Ms. Turner, thank you for organizing the play. If you attended the St. Patrick's Day Parade, you would know that Foreign High School was very much present. Our marching band performed within the parade, performing our halftime music, Eye of the Tiger, Welcome to the Jungle, and You Shook Me All Night Long. In addition, the band performed a popular Irish ballad, Danny Boy, in front of the main stand. I believe I saw a few board members there. Our Foreign Key Club was also very much present in the parade. Our Key Clubbers were tasked with organizing all of the parade's floats and groups in order, as well as holding up the Milford Kiwanis banner and marching through the parade route. Both the band and Key Club said marching in the parade is always a pleasure, and the atmosphere was very ecstatic. I would like to send a big congratulations to Foreign High School's captain and senior wrestler, Kelly Aspress. Kelly, 2 weeks ago, won the Girls New England Wrestling Championships. She becomes the 4th foreign wrestler to be crowned New England champion and the 1st female. She finishes her career as 3-time state champion and New England champion. She'll head to nationals in April and will continue her wrestling career at Division I Sacred Heart University next year. Congrats, Kelly. The Giving Table has had a very busy month. Last week, they prepared seafood chowder and vegetable bean soup for the local VFW Polar Plunge. This event raised over $17,000 for Homes for Heroes. We thank you for your service. They also prepared 2 chicken pot pies and tossed salad for Milford School District family. Our students are making a difference with their hugs of food, and we are very proud of them. Congratulations to the 47 Foreign High School students who were inducted into the first ever Rho Kappa Social Studies National Honor Society. All of these students exemplify the qualities of leadership, scholastic achievement, school and community service. This comes with such a great honor. Congrats to all of these individuals. Just a quick announcement, tomorrow at Foreign, there will be a fundraiser for the senior scholarships. There will be a wide array of events from student-faculty basketball games to 3-point contests and so many more. Snacks and drinks will be served. Come out and support the senior scholarships. College is a little expensive. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you this month. I look forward to speaking with you in our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to head out.
Thank you.
I'm guessing Jonathan Law perhaps is delayed or not here, so if they come late, we'll give them their chance to fill us in. Otherwise, we'll get double
Thank
duty
you.
next
Thanks,
month.
guys.
Good night. Now we'll move on to public comment. Speakers may offer objective comments about school operations and programs. The board encourages speakers not to express personal complaints or defamatory comments about the Milford Board of Education personnel or any person associated with the Milford Public School System. Security issues and matters relating to negotiations and grievances will not be permitted. Consistent with the principles of the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act, discussion of students is prohibited absent parental waiver. Public comment is not allowed for two-way conversation between speakers and the board, but we welcome and appreciate your comments and opinions, and all will be taken into consideration. Please note our meetings are televised and live streamed on YouTube. We ask that you state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you'd like to use the podium, you may.
My name is Jennifer DeVecchio. I live at 9 Mill Pond Close. I'd like to thank Dr. Kutaya for our meeting this week. Last week it was productive, and while there are still things that need to be ironed out, I'm looking forward to seeing an educational plan put in place so that my son Joseph's academic needs can be met. Thank you. I also met with Mr. Autieri. Thank you to Mike Smith and Lauren Mahler for taking time to learn about Joseph. And I met Una at the last meeting, and I'd like to thank you for encouraging me to come tonight. I have twins in 4th grade at Live Oak School. Joseph is one of them. My son Jack is over there. I'm happy to say since I spoke last, Joseph has had a PPT, and everyone has agreed to evaluate him to see the best ways to catch him up. In the past, I would have just accepted that Joseph was getting extra help, But if he was, I wouldn't be standing here tonight. And for this reason, I'm going to question every single thing that I am told when it comes to his education. I feel like it has been a combination of things working against him. I believe the focus on peer-to-peer learning is not appropriate for all learners, and I see evidence in this daily. Joseph's brother Jack loves teaching his group, while my son Joseph struggles with it. My son Joseph needs explicit direct instruction from a certified teacher. He struggles with direction from his peers. I'm disappointed to say currently that MPS is not meeting his needs, but I am very hopeful that an educational plan will be created for him. My hope is that this plan will include daily work with a math and reading specialist to focus on areas that he has substantial educational gaps in currently. It's not just peer-to-peer learning that is contributing to Joseph's deficit, it's the fact that we don't have a reading or math specialist. We should not see the kids with learning gaps like Joseph, who've been allowed to progress in school without proper attention. I agree that Joseph has made progress over the years, but the progress has not been substantial enough to get him on level. The last time I spoke, I questioned why we had 4 coaches in the building, yet no math or reading specialists who work directly with the students. What I am saying is that coaches are working with teachers, but who is giving the students the extra help that they need? Our teachers have a very full plate. They can't do the intervention on their own. The evidence is in the SBA scores. My son's SBA score said, "Will need substantial support to get on track for success in the next grade." It was very alarming to me. Thank you for your time. I'm happy that I spoke at the last meeting. I'm happy that I met with Dr. Kutaya. I will continue to speak with the hope of one day standing here to say that Joseph is very close, or even better, on grade level. Joseph actually also wanted to speak. I don't want to give a 2 for 1. Is this too high for you? So.
My name is Joseph Delvecchio. I live at 9 Mill Pond Close. I am in 4th grade at Live Oaks. I love to craft. I taught myself how to crochet. I started a crochet club. I am the CEO. I love to teach my friends and teacher how to crochet during recess. A few weeks ago, I had a great day. Miss Higley asked a question about vowel teams, and I knew it. I knew the answer. It made me feel smart to raise my hand and get it right. I want to feel like that every day. Last week, we were adding mixed fractions. My partner is so good at math, so he does everything fast, but I don't understand. I raise my hand and ask for help. I need Miss Higley to go over it 6 times because I don't want to add it to the list of stuff that I don't know. Miss Higley helps me at the time, but there are so many students that in my class who need her help too. We need more teachers who can help us. It is hard for me to learn from my friends. I was excited last week because I got to work with the speech teacher and Miss Laput. I asked my mom to do whatever she can to get me extra help. I want to work with as many teachers as possible so that I can catch up. I am not afraid of hard work, but I am tired of being behind in reading and being confused in math. I hope my mom will let this count as towards my 20 minutes of reading. Thanks for letting me tell my story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else this evening that wanted to speak?
Hi, my name's Mary Oak, also known as Emmy. I live at 30 Durina Place. This past weekend, I went and saw the musical Mean Girls, thanks to a neighbour's son that was in it. I just wanted to say I was impressed immensely by the talent. It was excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. Dr. Kutaya?
Chair's
Chair's
report.
report. A little off, sorry. All right, board members, let's see. This month is Music in Our Schools Month. There's lots of activities and performances going on. We were given a calendar in the last update, and we received an invitation to the Electrify Your Course, I think it is, on the 15th. Board of Finance will move to vote on our budget on the 20th of March, and then it goes on to the Board of Aldermen. And the public hearing should be in early to mid-April. We don't have that date yet. At our March Committee of the Whole meeting, we'll be looking at the Next Generation Accountability Report. It's an annual report that we get at this time of the year that identifies, it's a state report that identifies numerous data points for a more holistic measure of performance. And do you have any liaison reports this evening? Ms. Preet?
I have one, yeah. For Milford Prevention Council, the January 10th meeting, there was discussion about cannabis in Connecticut, what families need to know. Presentation was given by Melissa McGarry. She's a preventionist with nearly 20 years of experience working in public health. She serves as the project director of a local prevention coalition that strives to prevent underage drinking and drug use and promote social and emotional wellness. It was very interesting, her presentation. Some of the THC products are seeping into our smoke shops. You'll notice a lot of smoke shops around Milford. They're not supposed to, but there are some THC products that are being sold. So just be aware of that. When you see a smoke shop, not saying all of them, but they have been trying to crack down and going to each of these shops and trying to crack down if they are selling products with THC in them. The February meeting, Erica Skutas shared a visual of the Milford Mental Health First Aid Training programs that are offered to the public free of charge. They're based on a 5-year federal grant. Trainings are available for youth and adult. I happen to be able to participate in both. They were excellent. Just think of it as mental health training, just like you might learn CPR and rescue breathing and an AED. It's about how to approach someone who might be having a mental health crisis, both, again, youth and adults. They will also be doing free Narcan training will be available also. At that same meeting, Lee Goodman from Bridgeport Hospital shared an alarming increase, facts about an alarming increase in child fatalities due to fentanyl. Over the last 3 years, 97 children over with 85 younger than 12 months have died when first responders have gone to homes and they realized that the child was having an overdose or deceased because of fentanyl exposure. So she wanted to bring that to light because they're trying to deal with it. It's just something that's come up recently and it's just alarming. On April 18th and 19th, there will be at both high schools, Foreign and Law, Senior University. It's mandatory for both schools and for all seniors to attend. They will basically cover life after high school and whatever you may encounter as a an adult in the world. So it's I do plan on attending both. I'm going to try to attend both. I think it's a great program, just so that our seniors know have some tools going forward once they leave our Milford Public Schools. Also, the community survey has been put out by Milford Prevention Council. It's open until March 30th. You can go to their Facebook page, Milford Prevention Council, and anybody, they're encouraged to take the survey. You can provide your insights on substance use trends, underage drinking, vaping, and mental health concerns affecting youth in the Milford community. Your input helps shape our future. So please do go on their site. You'll see the link to participate. I think they're giving away a random gift card for those who participate. Thank you.
Ms. Zerbe?
I attended the Milford Education Foundation February meeting. The foundation continues to work on programs to offer to both the teachers and students of Milford Public Schools. Currently, they are working on their mini grants for the teachers and staff to come up with innovative ideas that the foundation can help them with. That application can be found on the Milford Education Foundation website, as well as updates to the robotics competitions that are the teams that are jointly, that has members from both law and foreign in attendance. So that's always fun to see the updates. You can find the updates on bluealliance.com. And they're working on lots of other programs, including library sessions and other information they'll bring for future meetings.
Thank you. Other liaison reports? Yes, Mr. Pimentel.
The permanent building facility met, and we continued the work at Pumpkin Delight School, which is continuing to near completion. Probably not going to happen before the end of the school year, but it is on course. We also, the one other major thing was the floor and roof project. We released the final retainer for the roof project, and that should make that project complete. We're moving forward. Unfortunately, we've had some issues with ledge work at the Pumpkin Delight School, which is just taking longer than usual. But the contractors are working very hard to continue to make progress and to do this on a timely basis.
Thank you. Mr. Hoba?
Board of Health meeting from back in February. The prime thing that happened at the meeting was a consultant came in and gave a presentation on possible locations for a new combined Board of Health and Health and Services building. They looked at repurposing Bethel, putting one kind of near the academy, and the leading site is actually a new building right across the street here in the corner of the parking lot out near the condos. And it seemed strange at first, but it really doesn't take up that many spaces, and they were going to actually look at putting parking below the building. So they've got a ARPA grant for $3 million, I think, for this year that they'd like to get going on that to at least pay for the engineering fees. So.
Great, thank you. I attended Milford PTA Council meeting this month, last month. They do a Life Achievement Award each year, and this year it's being awarded to the Food to Kids Food to Kids as a group. So the two individuals that lead that up will be honored at a future meeting. Also, Mr. Stack, who is our enrichment teacher here in town, did a little presentation with them on a district-wide STEM challenge that he's hoping to make into an annual event. Last year, you might recall that the enrichment program built a boat out of plastic water bottles, and they floated it at Pirate Day. So this year they're going to try to use cardboard. That should be interesting, but they're making it into a district-wide project. So it's each school will be involved in some manner, and so he was just looking for a little bit of support from the council. So it sounds interesting. So with that, I'll move on then to superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Glennon. I'm still pondering cardboard on water.
I know, I am as well.
It's a little worrisome on this end of
But
the,
only adults will be.
the liability end of us is,
Only
adults allowed in the boat, yes. Yes. So we are happy to share with you the instructional highlight on PK-12 this evening. With us, we have our instructional supervisors, PK-5, Dr. Nobley, and for 6-12, Lisa Swanson. I'm going to be speaking from my seat because I'm only going to do a few slides and then turn things over to you, if that's okay. So can you drive for me a little bit, Louis? Thanks. So the intent of STEM, the dream that we are building in Milford Public Schools, starting in preschool, is to help young people see themselves as future scientists, mathematicians, engineers, biologists, researchers, medical practitioners, mechanics, manufacturers, carpenters, architects, coders, programmers, etc. Whatever our young people want to dream, we want to provide them the support, the exposure, the opportunity to build a skill set and interest in these future careers. So tonight, we're going to talk to you a little bit about how we're developing that, starting at the youngest ages, in the areas of curriculum, instructional practice, some assessments, and definitely professional learning on how we support that through our adult learners. So let's start with curriculum. I won't read this curriculum vision statement because I believe you've seen it many times. But as a reminder, the highlights of our curriculum statement include a focus on high-quality learning and instruction, a focus on the vision of the learner for all learners, making sure that there are coherent, assured experiences across all levels, and really focusing on everyone's ability or opportunities to think and act beyond themselves as individuals. As I just stated, there are 4 key components that the Teaching and Learning Department focuses on. Curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional learning. And our goal always is, particularly having multiple schools at the elementary level, ensuring that there is coherence and alignment of these practices across 8 elementary, 3 middle, and 2 high. You can probably understand the challenge of the scope of that work, because across the district we have 485 classrooms. You break that down by level, and our goal is in each one of these areas to have consistency in curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices. This is not a new slide. This is a slide that we try to share with the board and other stakeholders as often as possible, because it really grounds the work. In everything we do, we consistently go back to the vision of the learner, our model for high quality instruction, the relationships framework, and now, as recent as this year, onboarding the equity framework. So please note, through the STEM work that we are doing, we are threading each one of these pieces. I'll turn things over to Ms. Swenson and Dr. Nobley.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Swanson. This is my colleague, Dr. Nobley. It is an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight to talk about the work that we engage our whole lives in, practically, right? Sometimes I think I eat, sleep, and dream this stuff. So we're excited to really open the doors to some of the work that we're doing. First of all, this is our curriculum cycle. I think you've seen it on paper, but it is a living and breathing process. So we're going to kind of walk you through what that feels like in our work. So currently, right now, our statistics, pre-calculus and calculus teachers are undergoing a program review, looking at our current resources, looking at our current experiences, and aligning them to standards, making sure that we are engaging in the work of the standards and also in current instructional practice. So taking a deep dive, looking at data, lots of different components to that processing, looking at new resources that are available that align to a district, that's one-to-one Chromebooks and things like that. That is some pretty big, heavy work, because that is really holding the mirror up to ourselves. And that's sometimes not the easiest thing to do, but we're really holding the mirror up and saying, what can we do better? And what other opportunities might we be able to offer our students through those curriculum? Now, already in place, so we're in initial implementation, I'll just peek into the algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. We kind of took our high schools and we chunked out the cycle over a few years, because as you can imagine, this is significant work, and there's about 22 staff at in our high school math department. So they are currently using our new resources after completing a program review and doing some piloting of resources in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. So they are in what we call an initial implementation phase. So part of that is really unpacking units and thinking and getting them previews to what's coming, because they're using a new resource. They're engaging in a new instructional approach. We'll talk about the professional learning about that later on. So a lot of this is, so that initial implementation is really digging into those units, getting a really good idea of what are the change in expectations potentially, what are the change in experiences that kids have been experiencing. If you have been teaching that course for the past 10 years, it definitely looks and feels like a little different course. The math is still the math. Algebra 2 is still Algebra 2. We still graph equations, we still look at lots of numbers, we still do quadratics, we do lots of fun things, but it is still probably in a different approach, and we're using some problem-based scenarios and things that teachers might not be used to seeing. In 6-8 math, we're also in that initial implementation phase. They finished their program review. We actually were piloting a couple different resources, and through the support of this board, we are using Desmos, which is a computer-based math program. And while I say computer-based, it does not mean that every day kids are on computers staring at them for their entire math block. It is actually very specifically built with instructional routines, ensuring that kids are having conversations, but also has that personalized approach that kids can go in there, and when the teacher decides that this is an individual task, that we're gonna go ahead and do that individually. They get immediate feedback, and they can get that response, try again maybe, move on, learn from that mistake and move on in that online environment. So it's really dynamic. I just don't wanna give the picture that like they're sitting and learning math online. It's really much more dynamic than that. It's a really awesome program. And additionally, in 7-8 tech, this is an example when you have like curriculum cycle gone customized, right? So what wasn't in the plan was that we were gonna have a new couple of courses in middle school. So I just wanna like illuminate that cycle gets interrupted sometimes. And it gets interrupted for really great things, like we changed the middle school schedule and we wanted some more choice, which is a really good thing for middle schoolers. So that meant that we weren't due for a few more years to really begin, but we began. And we started looking at what opportunities can we be providing to our students. And so therefore, we have an initial implementation of new courses for 7th and 8th grade right now, because this is the first year 7th and 8th graders are actually experiencing the same course. And a customized, instead of generic tech, which is what they used to take, it was kind of grade 6 tech, grade 7 tech, grade 8 tech, and that's kind of the generics of it. They get a comprehensive grade 6 introduction, and then they get to choose now between wood technology, computer science, or engineering and design. Tom?
All right.
I've been talking a lot.
Not as many courses, but so it'll be a little faster. So where we are in our elementary science and math is what would be considered the systemic implementation phase, which means we've kind of done the first two. We did a program review, we rewrote our curriculum maps, we decided on some resources that we wanted to bring in. We went through a kind of an initial phase of that, and now we're looking at what that looks like to kind of build into our kind of practice and adopt this curriculum. But to say that part of that cycle, even if we're in systemic implementation, is kind of, there's always a monitoring and adjust factor, so we get feedback from teachers every year about different things, both in science and math, that we need to take a look at. Coaches do a lot of work as well, based on the work that they do each spring, to make adjustments to our curriculum and our units as they are working with teachers, or our STEM educators are co-teaching with teachers in the lab. So that is going on. We also do that in response to assessment data. That could be formative data, like quick things that we're noticing in the classroom. That could be more curriculum-based assessment measures, and that can also be things like SBA scores and things like that we're looking at to see how well our curriculum is helping kids meet the standards. So that's where we are in that piece. The other piece that we're doing as part of, which kind of tends to happen in systemic implementation, is looking at some of the assessment pieces. So one of the things that we're doing this year in elementary math is piloting some newer assessments that with the hopes of rolling them forward next year based on our feedback. We've gotten good feedback from teachers and coaches so far. And these there's kind of two types of them. One focuses a little bit more on concepts that kids are learning, and one is more focused on fluency, so like math facts, understanding addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and being able to then use that information to support students. So we're looking, and the assessments are, we're hopeful for, because not only do they help you see the thinking that kids are doing, but they also provide teachers with, if this is the types of thinking you're doing, then here's some things that you can do. And these are aligned with the resources that we already have in place. So we're hoping that'll be an extra aid to help teachers to make decisions to benefit each of the students in their classes. So that's also part of that systemic implementation with the assessment piece that's happening in math.
Additionally, in science, we've been working on some progressions work, which is really thinking about, like, there's lots of big standards in science, so how does a claim, evidence, and reasoning process look in 6th, look in 7th, look in 8th, to make sure that we have some great calibration across grade levels to ensure that our expectations are elevating as we read generic statements for standards. So that's an example of some of the work that we're doing in science. Additionally, in science, when we talk about the systemic implementation, I think if you read that, you can think like, oh, that's like we're coasting. Yeah, we're not coasting. We're actually making a lot of adjustments. We're looking for feedback. So for example, in middle school, we have 6 units. We are trying our darndest every year to make sure we are on pace and our 6 units are going wonderfully. The feedback is no. There's too much. We're trying to do too much. We have to make a systemic decision about what we need to let go of, I like to say. 'Cause sometimes we have our favorite things we love to do. We might actually have to let go of that thing based on standards and feedback and priorities. And we do that systemically as a department. So in 6th grade, 7th grade, we're talking about 5 teachers across the district, and we don't want 5 teachers making their own executive decision about what to let go because pacing is taking long, right? So we really want to make sure that the written curriculum is actually attainable, right? So we don't just put something in writing and say, it's good, it's good, it's go. Like, we want to make sure, and we want that feedback, and we want that to be authentic, and not just like, well, we're in implementation, you guys are off, like, you know, do what you want. Like, no. We are getting that constant feedback to make sure that it is truly a systemic curriculum that is consistent across all the different learning sites.
Ms. Swanson,
yeah.
You mentioned you had 22 math teachers in the department. In systemic implementation, it doesn't mean that 22 math teachers are all doing it exactly alike in a cookie cutter format or in the same place along the learning continuum, right? Can you just talk a little bit about
Sure,
that?
absolutely. So I can give 22 math teachers the exact same lesson. I've got one right here, right? Actually, a really cool one about starburst. Right, so, and it has a whole lesson plan that goes along with it. But the reality is it's something that you can't take. As you can see from Tom and I, we have a little bit of a different personality, I would say. So,
I'm the bubbly one.
so you can give that, teachers, relationships matter, right? Interactions, personality, it matters. They're people, they're humans, right? So we give them the guideposts, and they are also professionals, right? They're professionals. So we set the conditions for how that's going to look with curriculum, but we know that there's going to be some variance. And because of kids' needs, some classrooms might I might teach 3 of the exact same course, and some days it might take 2 blocks for one class to do the work, and it might take 1 block for one class to do the work. But the reality is the timeline is finite, right? It's in June. Nobody wants to say the extra days to get to the curriculum they may or may not have finished, right? And the kids don't want to come back either. So we want to make sure that we're authentic and we're allowing some of that breathing room and not just so jam-packed in there that it's actually impossible to attain. And that's part of the work that we're doing.
Just to speak to the last piece on there about some of the curriculum work. So one of the things we're doing, particularly in science across our levels, is looking at some assured experiences to get our scientists out in the field, our young scientists out in the field, and to partner with some of the wonderful partners we have in the community. So example of that, this year was the 2nd year that we ran in 3rd grade an Autobahn experience that we revamped after the pandemic. To really be about, and with the Autobahn has been great in working with us on this, to get our 3rd graders out there with, to do some field work on a scientific question that they're looking at around the different habitats that they have there, and then actually collecting data and analyzing that data and actually creating pamphlets, communication that Autobahn actually, like, so when you go there and QR code an exhibit, you see our students' work in terms of what they figured out about that exhibit. And they've done this the 2nd year they've done that. And again, we got a lot of feedback from teachers and our STEM educators and revamped that. And then this year, upcoming, some of you may have already seen the invitation in the month of March, we're proud to be having an energy showcase at each of our schools, which corresponds to our 4th grade curriculum and some of our renewable energy resources. And it started from an Energize Connecticut contest that we then took and kind of extended out. Our STEM educators have been great with that. So our young 4th grade scientists will be making proposals to their school principals about plans to adopt some different energy sources that will be both, Mr. Ben will be glad to hear this, more financially saving over time. And actually, we actually got I mean, the students in STEM Editors actually reached out to Mr. Brennan and Mr. Bradbury to ask for the actual numbers, floor plans, different things like that, roof plans, so they could figure out square footage of. I had some educators and principals telling me kids were demanding to go see the boiler rooms and see how that worked, because they would be creating models and other information for their proposals. So we're really excited. Each school will have their own showcase, and we're really excited. We've got different community members and other board members attending those. And so this will be our inaugural year of that, so we're really happy to involve folks in that. And then we also, of course, have our wonderful planetarium at Foreign, and this is second year. So our first and fifth graders attend that as part of a curricular-based experience. It goes along with some of the standards that they're learning there, and so they get that experience as well. So we're trying to build that out, those experiences for our young people, our scientists in the elementary world, and I know similar things happening in the secondary world, which I know Swanson will speak about.
Yeah, sure. So our 7th grade students also go and visit the Audubon. They're not too happy that it's in April this year. Let's pray for good weather. It was in May last year, but we moved it up because of a curricular change, so it's totally related to our curricular experience. So we had to, when we change a unit and we move it forward, we have to also change, at least it didn't move to February, because that would have been not so good. But if you want to talk about human impact, on our environment, and that's an authentic place that we're going to go and visit, one of our local community partnerships. In addition to that, our 8th graders are currently, as a matter of fact, some of them were there today, at the planetarium at Foreign High School, certainly visiting and utilizing that amazing new resource. If you have not seen the brand new planetarium, it is state of the art. It is as good as any science museum you go to. It is quite the space. And we are so happy that our students get to see that and get to visit Foreign before they become possible Foreign students. What else do we got, Tom? Oh, our technology integration. We got tons of that going on.
Yeah, the last thing we wanted to talk about in the curriculum piece is, so one of the things, obviously, with T there in technology is we want to give our students the latest and greatest in terms of experiencing that. Weaved into the curriculum, of course, that we're setting. So at the elementary level, we have gotten some new VexGo robots that we're working with.
Did you say VexGo? Is that what you said? Oh, okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was like, okay. We have Vex V5s. I just don't know.
They're the elementary
version
of that.
Ours.
Yes. So students are working on coding and programming. We also have Finch robots as well. The other thing that I know some of our board members were able to be in some of the STEM labs earlier this week. We also have 3D printers in each of our elementary STEM labs, which we've integrated particularly into a 5th grade unit. And then the other new kind of tech toy that we're excited that's coming in very soon is some of the Oculus VR goggles, a couple pairs for each of our STEM labs. So our STEM educators are very busy, diligently working on how they can integrate that into the curriculum, to make the use of those relevant and to help advance the learning of our students. So those are some of the kind of new tech initiatives that we're looking to build into our elementary curriculum as well. And I know that there's also a lot of secondary stuff happening, yeah.
So it's really neat to know that he said VexGo, and I was like, oh, is that what their version is called? So
Yes.
they've got VexGo, we've got Vex V5s, and we've got Vex, I can't remember the additional name, to be quite honest. So it's a nice continuum of staying within the same brand, because that helps the students with platform and learning as they move through our system. So that starts off in the STEM lab, moves into a tech classroom in middle school, and then becomes an elective choice as part of high school. And yes, we also do have a community robotics team. When you look at what they're doing, it is amazing to see those robots make me look small in action with like basketball hoops and all kinds of fun stuff. Really cool experiences. And of course, in technology, we've got a lot of different experiences. Hopefully the budget goes and we get some new 3D printers for our new engineering and design class in 8th grade next year, as we move from that single choice to the 8th graders having another additional choice and adding 3D printers to our middle school. So we have them in our elementary school, we have them in our high school. Our middle school is kind of that missing piece. So that's one thing that we're looking to add there. In addition, we have Lots of different technologies in our science classrooms where we use a lot of digital tools to create phenomena. So we have like little carts that are actually connected to a computer-based sensing system that's creating the graphs so that the kids in the science classes can analyze the different acceleration factors, the different force factors, changing the ramp, and doing all of that in real time. Imagine, y'all look kind of young, I've been around here for many, many years. But we used to, that could take a week of science class in the past because you had to measure all those factors and take the hand time and do all, like now they're getting that data instantaneously so that the learning becomes much more authentic and it's more related to honestly what scientists do in the field, right? They don't do all those hand calculations. We know that we can do that, we teach that, but we also know that when we're doing an experiment, we want to make comparisons and we're looking for patterns and trends, that we want to spend the time looking for patterns and trends and not like, did we get that right? Do we got to do the timer again? Oh gosh, I didn't hit the timer. Like you lose all of those pieces instead of these authentic technological tools in our classrooms. So I think that sets the stage for kind of that written, what I think sounds like a written curriculum, but as we talk about, it doesn't really sound so written, but it's a live, breathing curriculum. It's not just paper documents or at this point, Google Docs on a site, right? It's really authentic and living and in action. But we want to pivot to a little bit of fun. Oh, I have to click, oh, sorry. This is going to be fast for me. I think Lewis is going to, all right, you're ready. Do we have any word learners in the room? Raise your hand, come on, admit it, admit it. I know I'm in a STEM presentation, we're going to talk about Wordle. Did anybody play today? No. Excellent, excellent, I'm so glad. So we have a couple of you that raised the hand. Anybody want to tell the rest of us, AKA Dr. Kutai, how do you play Wordle?
I don't
What are the rules? Does anybody know?
5-letter words.
5-letter words.
Green means it's where it's supposed to be, and yellow where, yeah, why don't you guys tell the rules?
Just, he's going in, going in.
No.
Oh, you guys? Yeah, I don't know. Over there. You play Wordle?
Joseph knows how to play.
Joseph, you know how to play. Let's tell us the rules, bud.
So you have all the letters in the alphabet. You have all the letters in the alphabet, and you have a word. There's like a mystery word that you have to try to spell. You have like 5 or 6 guesses. 6 guesses, and you have to try to guess the word. And like if it's green, it means that's in the right spot. It's the right letter. Gray, meaning it's not the letter. It's not the right letter. It's not in the word. And then yellow means it's the right letter, but it's not in the right spot.
Okay, so we all know how to play? Yeah? Nice job, Joseph. Great job explaining. Joseph and all my other Wordlers. Anybody ever get it on the first try? Look at my back. Joseph! And your brother?
Wait, Ms. Irby,
Yeah, once.
Once.
Smaller.
Once? You got it on the first try?
Petrosky.
And did you go back and play again?
No.
No? After you got it on the first try, you never went back and played it again?
Well, the next day.
I mean, like the next day, you play, like if you're a Wordler, you play Wordle.
Yeah.
We keep coming back for more, right? But I've never gotten on the first try. Good job. For those of you who have, I've never experienced such a phenomenon. So we're gonna play today. Anybody got a word for me? How do you start?
Joseph has one.
Joseph, what do you got?
Bread.
Huh?
Bread.
Bread. Is that your, hold on, Joseph. I feel like you're like speaking real confident here. I don't think you just came up with bread. Tell me a little bit about why you chose bread.
Did he play
Because
today?
my second grade teacher, we used to play, and the first word she always said was bread.
Oh, so she had a strategy, I guess, right? Did you play today, Joseph?
No,
Okay.
I did.
You did?
Okay, it's just, yeah.
Play along. Play along. All right, so his second grade teacher decided on bread. Does anybody else have a first word? We're going to use bread, but anybody else? I have one. Like us Wordlers, we kind of have our standard. Mine is based on like common use of the alphabet, right? STN, like when we used to watch Wheel of Fortune, right? Right? We have a little bit of a strategy going in. Yes, we might. We don't just randomly make up a 5-letter word like every day of the week. I don't have a new 5-letter word, right? Okay. All right. We're going to go with bread. Lewis, help us out. What are we going to find here? Oh. Did we get it on the first try?
No.
No. Do we have more information? Yeah, what do we know?
The letter in the yellow, I can't see it.
It's an E.
The letter E is the right letter, but it's not in the right spot.
So we know a little bit of information. Are we gonna try again? Sure? Anybody want to give us a word? I can't really think of a word, friends. I'm trying to facilitate. The brain power.
Well, you can't use the B, the R, the A, and the D. Am I catching on?
That's right.
I'm never playing this again. I just want you to know. It's already.
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say. That's what I said.
Tomorrow morning, it'll be.
Do we have another guess? Thank you,
Lines.
Megan. Huh?
Lines.
Lines.
That doesn't have an, oh, it does have an.
What?
Okay.
We did not get it, but do we have more information?
Yeah.
What do we know? There's an E and an S, but they're not in those spots. Yeah? A little bit more information? Are we gonna try again?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, you want one? I'm looking-
Yeah, I want another word. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with sure, because it's up there on the
There you go. There you go.
sign more than.
I like it.
So.
Bad.
Oh, wow.
We're learning. Learning a lot.
It's fine, you're good, that's fine. Do we have more information?
Yes.
Do we want to learn something?
The E has to be.
3 letters aren't available.
We learned 3 more letters that are not available. We also know that the S isn't in the first or last, and that E is not in the third, fourth, or fifth. A little bit more. So are our mistakes helping us move along here, maybe?
I have one.
You have one?
Oh. Swift.
No.
I like it because I like T Swift. Oh, did I? I'm not allowed to say all that.
Oh, no, it can't be there. Never mind, I take it back. Don't put it in. Can you retract? You can.
Yes.
Still learn strategy.
That's right. You can learn from that, that's right.
Information.
What was that?
Say we learn some information.
Yeah, we learned some information.
Has to be in the first or second place, right?
Yep, E is in first or second.
On the bottom.
This could be one of those tricky ones, which, by the way, we didn't talk about this rule. A letter can repeat.
Oh, right, true.
Oh, those are always the ones that really get me. But we know that it cannot be an A, a D, an R, an I, an O, an H, an L, and a B, and an N. And we are a group of smart people who can do hard things.
It has to have a T.
Huge.
Oh.
Messy.
Messy.
Right?
M-E-S-S-Y?
Yes.
Hold on, Lewis. Let's just make sure. Does that break any rules right now, right?
No.
No. Doesn't break a single rule. The S is not, okay, let's try it. Ooh. We learned a lot of information on that try, yes? We have some more information here. We've got a lot of new information. We know where the E, the S, and the Y are. And we know it's not an M and it's not another S or that S.
Pesky.
It's right here.
Pesky.
It's also right here. If you look at it right here.
Pesky. I put my money on pesky.
Or testy.
Or testy.
Oh, boy. Or testing.
Oh.
Only 2 guesses.
Only 2 guesses left. Shall we hit enter?
Yeah?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Yes!
That doesn't sound like somebody's career is over.
It's a lot of work for 9 o'clock.
Look, you keep your stats so you can see how you're.
Yeah, and then I send my stats to my daughter and my niece to try to, this is my go to bed, like take my mind off of everything else in the world problem. All right, Lewis, thank you so much for bringing us back to the presentation. So, why did we experience kind of a little round of Wordle here? Because I feel like Wordle's a really good example of the instructional. Let's go back a couple slides, Lewis.
I didn't do that, but I'll go back.
Oh, okay. The culture of learning that we want in our STEM classrooms, right? We want kids to take risks. We want children to make mistakes, but we want them to know that making a mistake means that I have more information than I did before and that mistakes happen. And getting it on the first try can sometimes be a rare event. You know, I mean, if you've ever watched tech kids try to throw a catapult, they spend lots of time designing catapults, trying to get things to hit a certain target. And do you think anybody gets it on that first try? Nah, they don't. They've got to try and try again. And we want that culture of risk-taking, and that mistakes are actually a healthy part of the learning process. Mistakes are actually added value to our learning because we get a little bit more information.
So to follow up on that, we talked a little bit about some of the curriculum work that's going on in the STEM area, and we wanted to now talk about instruction is how that curriculum comes to life in the classroom. So we wanted to talk about some of the key areas that we've really been focusing on instructionally in math and science in the district. So the first one is really looking at strengthening and helping teachers to work on instructional routines in math and science. And what we mean by that is basically thinking about what do we know about the best way to do something in the classroom, whether that's launch a task with kids, get kids involved in an investigation, whether that's having students engage in a class discussion, or how do we close out and summarize the lesson. So we're trying to work with teachers on coming up with these routines based on what we know and sharing that practice, and then having folks really work on strengthening their craft with those. That's been a really big focus in the elementary math world, particularly this year, and I know it's also been a big focus. And so that kind of links to the second one. One of the areas of focus this year, district-wide, from our model of high-quality instruction, is the area of formative assessment. And again, just to, for those of us not in education, just to make it more of a, not edu jargon. That's where we're talking about real-time, assessment. So we have kids learning in class, and we're getting information about where they are in the learning process while we're teaching, and then being able to respond to that. Whether that's giving them feedback, giving a hint, helping clarify a misconception. So we're really focusing on those in-the-moment, daily assessment practices, as opposed to waiting. Not that we still don't have things like quizzes and tests and other more formal assessments, but part of that, although the information is useful, it's also after the kids have ended the learning for the day, or for the unit. So we want to have those, but also have ways in which we're able to know where kids are while we're teaching them, so that we can make decisions about how best to move them forward. So we're working with teachers in math and science and everything else, because it's, again, one of our areas of focus in the district in our model for HQI, and really trying to hone our practice in that area. And then the last one, I'll let Ms. Swanson talk a little bit about what we're doing with our thinking experiences and problem-based learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So having students engage in authentic tasks that relate to real-life situations. So instead of just walking in and talking about, I don't even know what else, but I'm going to talk about real stuff. So, for example, we're talking about understanding the moon and eclipses. It happens to be quite ironic, since there is actually an eclipse coming up that we are going to partially be able to view here in Milford. April 8th, that's right. So looking at the moon and talking about, what do we notice? What do we see? Does anybody notice that we always see the same side of the moon? Why is it that we always see the same side of the moon? What's going on in the dark side of the moon? How did the moon come to play? Lots of authentic experiences around when you look up, what do you notice and wonder about the moon? We really want our kiddos to really think and notice and wonder, and not just do stuff because we tell them to, but really engage in that thinking practice. So when we talk about an instructional routine, notice and wonder is an instructional routine. And there's really, effective ways that we know through practice that are really the honed in great way of doing things. So I had a knee replacement 6 years ago, right? I'm glad I had it 6 years ago and not 20 years ago, because we continue to refine our practice, and I don't want to go to the doctor that was doing it 20 years ago. It was painful enough a few years ago, and they have yet to get it, I don't think, too much better, but this bad boy is supposed to last me forever. If I had it 20 years ago, they were saying there were about 10 years of good knees, right? We've learned, we've refined our practice. So we are constantly thinking about what are some good thinking experiences. So when I showed you that Starburst problem out of our new high school math curriculum, where every day kids walk in and it's what we call low floor, high ceiling task. The first question on there for our Algebra 2 students is to look at some data. It's Starburst laid out in different, and look at those figures and look for a pattern. Noticing patterns is a big idea in math, it's a big idea in science. So we don't want you to walk, it's great if you walk in and you can do the math, we're excited about that. But we also want you to know that mathematics is actually about patterns and not just following. If you were in my class 12 years ago, I did an amazing job, I think, of being like, here's how you do it. Let me show you how to do it. We're going to do it together, and now you're going to do it. We call that the I do, we do, you do model of instruction. And we call that what's called mimicking mathematics. That's basically just kind of follow the leader, and kids feel good, you feel good because that day, but they didn't necessarily spend time looking at that and saying, like, let's give them 2 minutes to look at the problem and say, what do you notice? What are you wondering? I'm going to ask you to solve that. What do you notice? What do you wonder? Assuming kids have something, they have some previous knowledge, they have something to bring to the table to solve those problems. So it can be from a thinking task around the moon, a thinking task about the pattern in Starburst consumption, or it can be a simple math problem in which we just phrase it in a way that says, hey, take a look at that equation, what do you notice? I notice there's x's on both sides. Okay, I notice there's some multiplication, some division. We want you to actually just look and not just start like, let me just do it the way she did it. You know, she moved some letters, oh wait, she could put the x's together. Why did she do it? I don't know how she did it, but like, and then they go home, the next day they come in, I can't do it. Like, it's just, we want kids to really think about what they're doing before they actually engage. And as a scientist, we want you to look outside, look at that moon. Everybody's gonna look at it tonight if they can find it. And, you know, take a look, what phase is it in?
But don't look at the sun at the eclipse.
And I would just
Not
add,
without
I mean,
protective gear. Right.
so we want kids to have those experiences for application and to work with novel problems. We still do also want kids to have the basic foundational skills as well. So I talked about the fluency work that we're doing, assessments that we're doing in elementary math. You know, our vocabulary and different things we need kids to know in science as well. That helps them to then do some of the more cognitive engaging work and more novel work. So we are, of course, still building on that foundational work as well. I just wanted to make sure we added in that point. All right. And then, again, this is just a quick slide. We are happy to report that the elementary STEM lab is still the most popular room in every elementary school in the district. Everyone loves it there. It's close to replacing recess as the most favorite subject. We're still getting there. And we're just continuing to figure out how to innovate in that space and give our youngest scientists different experiences. I talked about some of them earlier in the presentation, so that when they do get into that secondary space, they're kind of ready to go, ready to think about building on that. So we're continuing, and we have a great group of STEM educators who really take a lot of pride and passion in the work and are always looking to do really cool and innovative and neat things. So we're continuing to build on that, and we just wanted to quickly update you there. Okay, and then the last, one of the last things, we talked about kind of the curriculum work. We talked a little bit about the instructional focus that we've had. But of course, we need to support the learning of all our learners in the system. And again, one of the things we believe is that all of us are learners in the system, not just our students, but our teachers, our central office supervisors, our superintendents, our assistant superintendents. So we're all always looking to learn, because we know that if you start what you knew yesterday, there's something more to learn today, right? The world keeps going. So we want to make sure we're supporting our teachers in their professional learning. So we've just outlined a couple of key things that we have been working on with our math and in the math and science space. So the first one is really supporting teachers in continuing to build their capacity around what we call learning progressions. So again, just to talk about what that is, we have standards that this state or state or national standards that are set in both math and science that are goals for our kids, and those are end of the year outcomes that we want kids to reach. So what we look at is research-based progressions of, okay, this is the end of the year outcome, but what are the steps to get kids to actually achieve that, right? They're not going to go from A to Z in one step. So it's kind of the path toward the standard. So for example, in third grade, one of the big outcomes, one of the critical areas is around learning multiplication, understanding the meaning of multiplication, becoming fluent in multiplication. So if you look at the standard, that tells you what a third grader needs to know at the end of the year, but it doesn't tell you how to actually get the student there. So what do they need to know about the ideas of grouping? What do they need to know about repeated addition? So these are the things that we look at with teachers, which makes that formative assessment practice, that real-time assessment practice, more impactful because they know what they're looking for and they know the next kind of stage to move the learner toward for those standards. So we're digging into that. We are, of course, have our instructional coaches at both the elementary and middle school level, supporting our teachers and students in implementing curriculum and instruction and assessment practices. So that's job embedded every day, there for you. PL, and then the last thing I'll talk about before I turn over to Lisa is the idea of lab sites. I think we've talked about these before, but basically where groups of teachers get together to basically do research on their own practice, right? Teachers coming together saying, hey, you know, I'm trying this thing out in the classroom. Maybe it's an instructional routine, maybe it's another part of our model for high quality instruction. And so they try it out, teachers are in the room watching them actually work with real kids, and then we can have a conversation with the teacher afterwards around kind of what they were thinking, what the moves they made were, why they made them. We have other teachers being able to talk about their experiences with that, maybe make some tweaks to the lesson or the practice, go back in, try it again. So that's been another big focus, especially around the routine work as we're kind of developing these routines. Let's test them out in groups and figure out how we can improve them. So we've got, again, this would be in math, elementary and secondary teachers really engaged in that work. And then I'll turn it over to Ms. Swanson to talk about some of the other things on the list.
Sure, I mentioned a little bit around one of the tools that we use is to unpack units of study. So as we write new curriculum and we have new implementation guides, we gather up before a unit to really preview that unit, understand where we're going, what does the assessment look like at the end of the unit, so therefore where are students supposed to be, and then how does that unit then progress, talking about what we anticipate might be some challenges, some new learning for us, really have a collegial conversation facilitated by either myself or one of our instructional specialists to help really get our teachers to be as expert as they can around something they've never done before, right? It's really hard work when you're implementing a new unit of study, and especially if you've been doing this for a few years and it's really shifting your thinking, or it's a different, like we said there, it was reimagining an instructional approach. Is every teacher really in that mindset that I do, we do, you do is no longer really a great practice, and we know that there are better ways to engage learners and have really good learning happen? I'm going to tell you that no, we're getting there, but we have to try things out and shift practice, slow and steady, right? As Anna said earlier, you know, tell us, like, they're not all, we give them the same lesson plan, but everybody is a unique individual person, and we need to honor them as learners too, and like our students. Everybody's in a different continuum on that path. I always like to say when it comes to student learning, we didn't all walk, talk, and learn on the same day, right? We didn't like come out and everybody was like, all right, day 98, they're gonna start sitting up, and then day 100 and whatever, they're gonna start walking, right? That's learning, right? Not every kiddo, just because they have an age stamp, means that they're actually learning at that same time. So really understanding a unit as best as you can beforehand helps arm a teacher for what may come to be in that unit. We have content experts come. So we were so fortunate last week to have Lindsay Gallus, one of the authors of the problem sets in the high school math curriculum, come out and work with our teachers for a day. She's actually the one that introduced me to the Wordle activity, just saying. I just learned that one last week. And we had another expert come from Open Syed to work with our teachers for the day around what are the routines in Open Syed. So that's already our curriculum that's in place that are around our district focus around making thinking visible and formative assessment. There's a lot of information in those units, and as a teacher, it's not the only thing you're dealing with. You're dealing with actual students all day long, and you're teaching all day long. So taking time and setting it aside to really dig in and look at some of those key features to help us continue to elevate our practices around high quality instruction.
I think we just have a couple of, so this is some of our elementary teachers in action in their learning. On the left-hand side, there's a group of teachers working around in a school-based HQI professional learning session, developing some shared understanding around formative assessment and doing some collaborative work there. And then you see in the second picture, that would be an example. You can see them kind of doing some math on the board. They're digging into a learning progression. Looks to be about first or second grade, and how kids are learning to add and the different types of problems they'll see. So they're kind of digging in. So that's a little bit of an example of the work we talked about with that learning progression work, connecting to how do we get kids to the state standards. And I know there's a couple others.
So there's our Wordle, Lindsay, up in the corner, leading our teachers through what is coined as an EFFL lesson, and that is experience first, formalize later. So traditionally, probably when you were in math class, you walked in and it was like, we're gonna solve two-step equations today, kids, all right, got 2x plus 5 equals 4x plus 8, and we're gonna try to get all those variables onto one side of the equation, right? Does this sound familiar? I mean, if you had me, that sounds like me. But this is a shift to really have kids walking in, looking at patterns, having some initial ideas before we come in as a teacher and look for those key points and actually navigate a discussion and teaching point around what we saw our students do and talk about, you literally will see a progression of learning happen in a classroom. But if you haven't really had conversations about the progression of learning, some teachers might think, well, oh, they just didn't get it. And it's like, no, they're actually, there's a journey in front of you around different elements in the room. And then the teacher has to then get to the teaching point. I like to say, like, when I look at the lessons, I'm like, it's taking how I used to teach and literally flipping part 2 and part 1 around. So it was part 2 was the, like, they get to try some work, and then I would walk around and look at what kids are doing. We kind of start off there, and we start off with actually an attainable task to see how far kiddos can get, and I chunk it, and I say, all right, they're gonna try 1 and 2, I'm gonna see how well they can do on those 2, and then I'm gonna let it go. And if they're okay, we're gonna just keep moving on. If they're not okay, I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna have a discussion. It's a much more dynamic class, and it puts kids and they're learning right in the front of a teacher constantly. They're at vertical learning spaces so that they can easily see where kids are in their learning as opposed to being on a paper in front of them, which is hard to see. So there's a lot of different subtle moves that our teachers are trying that are very different than how they typically were either taught to be an educator or how they learned as math students. And this is, again, our example with this is our middle school science team, digging around the different elements in our resource for Open SciEd, around how we have examples of making thinking visible. And again, using that, we're talking about those progressions in all of our subject areas, because the more you understand about how students develop and where they are along that continuum of learner, the better a practitioner you are at diagnosing where the learning needs might be and figuring out your next instructional move. And also, our amazing tech department was so busy on that day. So we have one group learning about Canva. So Canva is a professional, lots of professionals use it. As an educator, we actually have a great access to the suite for free, which is wonderful. So we have our instructional technology teacher. She had them make a flyer for Colony Grill for St. Patty's Day, which is an example of what we want our kiddos to be doing. We're partnering a little bit with Nate's Plates, which is one of the businesses in town that has approached us to do authentic learning. Like, why talk about theoretical marketing when we have like 1,000 businesses in Milford that we could do some marketing for? So, but also learning the tool Canva, and then learning how to navigate. So lots of layers of learning here, because we're on ViewSonics and we can see 4 screens at the same time. We can have kids give feedback to each other. It was a really dynamic lesson. Our tech teachers were off visiting East Haven High School that recently redid tech spaces, and as we recently learned, we're going to be able to redo our tech spaces here in Milford, which is exciting work. And our middle school tech teachers were learning together on our VEX PD Plus access online, so that they can have constant learning when they're needed and on demand. Whew.
Take a breath. It's my turn.
There you are.
So I'm going to finish us out real quick with a few slides on what are we looking forward to in the future. So thank you, Lisa and Thomas. So right now, we are in a state of limited capacity, limited storage, limited functionality when it comes to our tech ed spaces at the high school. And thanks to this Board of Ed, Board of Finance, and Board of Aldermen, we'll be investing $10 million over the course of the next couple of years in revamping the tech spaces at both law and foreign. So let's take a look at what we're dreaming of. This is a little bit of what is happening in the middle school. I think Lisa already talked about it, so I'm just going to skip right over it. So there are 6. I'm going to go to the next one. No, one more. So there are 6 big buckets within which we are dreaming, and we are giving you our draft dream. Okay, so I know it's in writing, but write draft on your paper because right now our tech spaces are being spec'd out by we will be speccing them out with architects, and our team of educators are spending time crafting what those courses will look like and what those experiences will look like. So we have 6 big categories of work, and we're moving away from the word we used to use when I was in school. We would go to shop, we would sign up for shop class. So we're removing shop from our vocabulary and introducing the word studio. So we have 6 studios that we are like to create and vision for our young people. The first studio is that of transportation. You'll see 3 sample courses that we're thinking about. And if there are some current courses, we'll revise the curriculum. If there are new courses, we will write a new curriculum. So we're thinking about an access entry point at each one of the studios. So that means any kid could take a course in that studio and possibly spark an interest in further coursework, or just get foundational level skill set and move on in life and engage in a different career path. So owning a car. Great course for any child. That course could be an entry point for then that student possibly having interest in these 2 other sample courses, automotive technology and automotive maintenance. The second studio that we are building is that of manufacturing. Again, here's an introduction to manufacturing course. The CAM course, computer aided manufacturing, will be a new course for us. And then we already have some engineering, but we will obviously revisit that curriculum and revamp the engineering design course. The third studio that we are going to invest in is that of construction. The 3 courses we're proposing is Principles of Construction, Application in Construction, and then Advanced Carpentry. The fourth studio that we'd like to make available for our young people in this career path is that of technology and communication. So an introduction to graphics, the screen printing and specialty printing will be a new feature in our high schools, creating a space specialized just for that, and then something that focuses on digital and media technology in the area of communication. We already have some pieces of that, both law and foreign. They look a little different right now, so we'll be looking to developing some coherence and in conjunction with the humanities department as well, because this crosses over into the journalism class. And another studio is that of design, specifically looking at introduction to tech drafting. This is an architectural pathway, and then also including some interior design. Again, we have interior design, but we'll likely go back, revisit, and ensure that it's aligned to 2024 standards. And the last studio that we'll invest in this career path is that of 3D CAD modeling, more robotics. We already have some robotics in our high schools, and extending engineering and drafting. And this is the STEM studio. And finally, not in this presentation, but in next month's instructional highlight, so a little preview, we're going to focus on some other career pathways which likely will require additional facilities renovation in the area of allied health, the culinary arts. I've already talked to you a little bit about culinary arts, and when Ms. Swanson has been in front of you, she's talked about allied health. And then a dream that is growing in our assistant superintendent's mind is that a career path in the area of marine sciences, since we have 17 miles of waterfront property here in Milford.
And Noah.
And NOAA, yes, exactly. So that's a little bit of what's happening in STEM and a little bit of what we're dreaming for in the future. That was a lot to digest. Thank you to Ms. Swanson and Dr. Nobley. We're happy to open things up to board members.
Thank you, Dr. Kutaya. Can you just quickly touch on the, this has come up a few times, the Plat Tech piece?
What about it?
Well, that we have Plat Tech here, and...
And why can't we use it?
Right.
So I was asked by the Board of Aldermen some questions about Plat Tech, and it's right here in Milford, so why don't we just...
Board of Finance, too, I think, asked as well.
Sorry?
Board of Finance, I think,
Oh.
asked too.
Okay. So it's not a part of our school system, first of all, just to clear things up. It is part of the Connecticut Technical High School system, which actually runs parallel to the Connecticut State Department of Education. And so in order to attend Plat Tech, you must apply. You can understand that with its renovation, it has become highly competitive to get into Plat Tech. They only take a certain number of students from each school district that sends students. Plat Tech is not open to us during the day. It is only open to students who apply and get in, starting in 9th grade. I was walking the building with Dr. Carlson at East Shore, and we were talking about various things. We were there just to visit classrooms, and she said, "Have you heard what happened at Plat Tech and our East Shore kids?" I said, "No, what's going on?" She said, "We only had 3 students accepted." I said, "Well, how many applied?" She said, "We had 18 students apply to Plat Tech and 3 were accepted this year." First, let me clear, 18 students going to Plat Tech does not demonstrate a problem with us. I think it demonstrates that there is an increased interest in that type of learning and those careers. I was once asked in my 6 years here, why would we ever invest in tech ed and culinary? Because those kids who want that will go to Plat. So there's so many things wrong with that statement. First of all, that education is for everybody. And those careers are more and more in demand today. And it's not just for those kids. So I believe that in our schools, we have to offer these career pathways for every kid to discover, because there's a possible career there that may or may not involve a 2 or 4 year college. It may involve specialized training afterward that gives a young person a very solid career that could help support a family. So Plat Tech is for a very limited number of kids based on application, and they have a limited number of seats there. Now, Plat Tech has state-of-the-art facility. I wish we could all go. I have a little bit of Plat Tech facility envy.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So, but we have $10 million, and we're going to do the very best we can to give our people a parallel experience to that type of learning facility. So it's just, we're not going to be able to get a lot of kids in.
Thank you. Questions for the team? Ms. Doyle?
I really actually don't have any questions. I just want to support what you just said, because it's absolutely valuable to the students to understand, how does your car work? Like, how do you change a tire? Or any of these issues with Design Studio, or how they apply to the different aspects. And having come from the Milford Public Schools, I think that was a change that's been necessary over the 20 years, is where can we see opportunities that we don't know exist? And I can say, as someone, as I'm sitting here and listening to the STEM class, I'm like thinking about my favorite high school experiences. It was my science classes and the dirt experience I remember, or the going to Eisenhower and getting the bugs and things like that. And I went to become a bio degree. And that's not really where my heart is, because I remember being in school and being like, let's fix the pipettes to do it, and that's not me. So having the opportunities to do those things early enough and know it's right for you or not is something that I think we should invest for students in the future. I do have a question, now that I spoke. How will this affect, it's going to be hard to kind of transition out of, to some of, we also send students to Trumbull VOAG or marine sciences, the aquaculture and things like that. And so if we can offer some of those opportunities in Milford, we might be able to transition some students into those opportunities. I mean, they're not full programs in terms of Trumbull VOAG. I don't know if Trumbull
VOAG is, yeah.
VOAG, but marine sciences is not, as far as I know.
So I don't know that we'll, my goal is to transition kids out of there, because I do believe, like I'm a equal opportunity education person. I do believe that those places serve a purpose for some of our young people. So I would always want to support that. We won't ever be able to recreate the experience at a VOAG. I mean, we're not bringing in farm animals unless, I mean, maybe we can, I don't know. Or small veterinary is possibility one day, doing a vet tech career path, which we, hey, let's put that on the list, now that I'm thinking out loud. So I don't know that we will replace those, but I think for those kids who are thinking that our comprehensive high school doesn't really have something for them, they will start to find something for them, right? And I believe that it's going to be an increased engagement piece for high schoolers and increased relevancy of learning, because we were talking about this today. I'm sensing a shift, and of course I'm a parent of a 30-year-old, so I can't speak for parents of 10-year-olds right now. Some of you can. I'm sensing a shift that a guarantee to go and get a 4-year degree in an area that you're not sure is going to exist in 10 years, and a possibility that you're not actually going to get a job in that field, is going to be for everybody, right? We've talked about that as a board. I don't know that we should set as a goal to increase our number of kids going to 4-year degrees, right? What we want to offer is kids who want to go to college have that opportunity, no questions asked, right? But we want to offer kids leaving high school with a certificate, an employable certificate in hand, an industry standard certification that maybe with a 9-month program at Housatonic, or maybe go and qualify for an apprenticeship, be able to go and develop a career in high school and be employable, make a salary that can support a family, open their own business, partner, become part of a larger company, etc. So I think that would be more the goal than trying to steer kids away from other opportunities at high school.
Well, I just think about my nephew graduated from Platt, who 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they all run together, but now he's working at Toyota. And he wouldn't have had that opportunity if he didn't have those kind of things. And my other nephew, same sort of thing, is trying the allied health classes and might go to nursing school. So that sort of thing within our school district. Platt obviously is not our school, but in that gives opportunities that you wouldn't expect to exist.
Right, and I think, speaking of being right here in Milford, you know, Ms. Swanson told me that a group of children are going to visit SHIC, and teachers, right?
Which turns out, as I said in the paperwork, they don't call themselves SHIC anymore, they're clearly a bigger company,
Edgewell, yep.
Am I right?
Yep, Edgewell.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
right here in Milford, our young people are gonna have an experience of what does manufacturing look like in 2024, right? It's not the manufacturing when I was growing up and, you know, men come home dirty looking, right? Like, manufacturing's a really high-tech, no longer like the blue-collar thing. So I think by developing these career paths and developing these partnerships within Milford and along our borders, we could really support kids thinking about other types of careers. And to be honest, we don't know what the careers are going to be like in 10 years. So this is really about the vision of our learner, right? Providing them with skills and dispositions, regardless of what content is going to be out there, they're going to be able to consume it.
And just to piggyback off that and to clarify, having kids go, for instance, into a SHIC environment or Edgewell for like an internship, for instance, is not going to, they still need their Milford Public Schools, you know, classroom time, and they need to meet, all the pieces of graduation requirements. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It works together. It's not, you cannot have, it doesn't replace what might be
An
going on
internship
here.
would be considered supplemental.
Right.
Right? We'd like to grow the internship in the future. That's kind of like in year 4 or 5 plan. But before you grow an internship, we have to figure out acquirement of the 25 credits for graduation. So if you're going to back it into like February, March, how do you do that and prepare a kid for AP tests in May? Like, there are lots of challenges to increasing the internship, because most of them, right, happen at the very end of the year.
Yeah.
After kids have most of their like testing behind them. And I wouldn't mind, we've dreamed about like little mini internships along a high school career as opposed to all the eggs in one basket in senior year.
Right, okay. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, thank you, and I, again, really appreciate this conversation and the outlining of the programs, and also just very excited that hopefully the kids in school now don't have the same like disappointing experience I had 20 years ago when I really was excited to sign up for construction technologies, but they didn't offer the course because no one else wanted to do it because I was that weirdo. But I guess I would just ask that if there hasn't been consideration made, I would strongly recommend figuring out if there are businesses in the community, whether it's Edgewell or Sikorsky for the manufacturing, or working with the state building trades on the construction stuff. I would encourage it not just to be, maybe not advanced carpentry, but introduction to the trades, and work with them to figure out a whole bunch of different ones you could do. And then maybe see if there's, like for the auto ones, maybe work with some of the car dealerships in town. And so figuring out folks that are in our community to help design those facilities and studios so that when the students enter them, it's close to real life, and maybe we can figure out if there are some, not necessarily like, maybe the inverse of an internship, where we might be lucky enough to grab one of the professionals in there for a day throughout the course of the year or something like that, so they could see that. So, and then I think the only other thing I would say is, one of the things I can't forget is I've been listening a lot to the AI conversation at the state level, and one of the lines is that AI is not going to replace jobs. It's the folks who know how to use AI will replace your jobs. And so making sure we're equipping our students with the skills to be successful, whatever technology and whatever this world looks like 5 years from now or 50 years from now.
More to come on that in May, I think. And we do have a building committee process that we're gonna have to go through to spend the 10 million to, so we're gonna have to navigate through that. And we are working with architects, obviously. And we do have a Perkins Grant Advisory Committee, I think has been very instrumental in the thinking on our design. So we wanna be good partners and stewards of this, so, and it's important that we get it right, because if our kids aren't getting like 2024 experiences in the studio or the auto shop, they're not going to be competitive out in the work field.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we need to do this. If you walk into some of our tech ed spaces, which some of you will next week, you will definitely see the need to do this. So.
Yeah, and then also the boatworks and marinas in town, I think would be a great partner. As someone who had to haul a diesel engine in the back of a Volvo up to Marblehead, Mass to get it serviced because there was no one in Connecticut who could do it. Like there's definitely needs in people, so thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Muller?
Not a question. Not any questions. Just wanted to say that that was great. That was a very comprehensive view of the world, and I feel like we started out in STEM and we ended up in this entire, what could be its own separate conversation, and will be, I'm sure, multiple times over on the Pathways plan, which is great. So I don't want to get distracted by the big shiny thing that came at the end and not acknowledge the cool shiny things that came in the beginning with all of that. So thank you as a parent of a fourth grader who got to do both the Audubon thing and now is doing how do we put solar panels on the roof of JFK. There's very cool stuff going on, and I love the way that you presented how you're approaching all of it, because as parents we see the end, we see what happens, and we see different kids doing stuff and different teachers doing stuff in classrooms and projects and all of that, and hear about it a lot, particularly with little tiny budding scientists who don't even realize that's what's happening. So thank you for making that so integral into the experience that they're all having, that it's just part of the day, as opposed to a specific thing in this place or that place. I wanted to highlight a couple of the things that I thought were really uniquely focused on, and that I appreciate very much, both the tech integrations of finding different ways at different levels and at learning appropriate stages to integrate those components, because they're obviously so critical. Regardless, you're not doing any of that without things we don't even know about yet. So bringing a lot of that in there between the 3D printers and the physics capture and all that you were talking about. that was a really neat component. And then the partnerships in the community. I think a lot of times I know we have mentioned a lot from up here in different conversations and in different settings about partnerships with the community and why aren't we doing this and can we talk to that and can we talk to that? And it's really nice to see that that is being embraced so fully, whether it's the Audubon or whether it's different places around town. And there are so many cool opportunities here and people who would love to do that kind of a thing. So I appreciate the vision towards finding ways to bring that in and to bring those partnerships. So that's very cool. And then on the pathways front, that's something that we've talked about and supported from up here. You know, for those of us who have been around less time than others, I know it's something that has been ongoing for quite some time to support as a board. And so it's really neat to see. I work for a company that's hiring for several of the roles that you highlighted in some of these things in here. So that's great, do it, let's go. But what's really neat is that a lot of these positions, one aspect of it that we don't always think about is that they are very nimble in terms of where you want to be. You're not locked into a specific potential factory in a location or a spot or a physical geography. A lot of these can be remote and flexible that also meets that aspect of the way the working world works now, which is different from what any of us know from however long ago that's been. So that's another component that is clearly built into the outcomes that are going to result from this plan. So very excited to see how that integrates and how that happens with those plans and those teaching, and again, the community connections and partnerships that exist all over the place. So very excited to see how that goes and support it. So thank you guys for making that part fun.
Ms. Preet?
So speaking from personal experience with our son Matthew, who's now 19 in sophomore year of high school, he wanted to build stuff. So I think this also speaks to the kids that, there's a reason why, especially in the K-5s, the STEM labs are so popular because it's hands-on. Don't tell me, show me, right? So it's the interaction, it's the physical hands-on, it's the actual engaging in the activity. And I think the answer a lot of times was, you want to build stuff, it's math and it's engineering. It's like, no, he doesn't want to do math and science. He's not that into school, honestly. He wants to wear the tool belt. And lo and behold, he's in a 4-year apprenticeship program with the union. It's an 8,000-hour paid apprenticeship, and he's loving it. He's found his niche. He comes home dirty, and he loves going to Lowe's and buying the tools for the classes that he has to take also. So again, I think speaks to the students who, want more of a classroom, outside the classroom experience and get that hands-on learning. And, it's definitely, and at the same time, gaining a skill to actually be employed in the future. So I'm all for all hands-on, experiential learning, definitely.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Mr. Koba?
Just one short comment. And I really thought it was great in the proposals for the studios that you had an entry level, like anybody can take course in each area. Because sometimes, no prerequisite, you can get in it and you can find out whether you really like something or maybe you didn't. It wasn't what you thought it was. So I think that's a great idea for exposure.
Thank you. I hear that often from parents, I wish my kid knew what he didn't want to do before he started before he started college, right? Because sometimes they get there and it's like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So it's always good. That's good as well, to know what you don't want to do. Oh, thank you very much for the presentation. We always appreciate having you visit us. Until next time, right?
All right, until next time. We'll see you next month.
Next month. Thank you, go home and do homework. Thanks, folks.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa, thanks, Thomas. Board members, we're going to be moving on to the food service financials, and therefore I'll be turning things over to Ms. Eileen Bostich.
Board members, did you all see the addendum to the packet that had the report in it, the financial report? Because we have some extra copies if anybody needs one.
If you have an extra, I'd love to see the paper. Just hold on.
If you need a copy of it, let us know.
This one, the actual financials in the email. I sent it that way.
Do you need one?
Yes.
Yeah, you have the hand, not the financials, the other one.
Oh, was it not enough? There's 2 pages?
We have extras.
That's right, we'll follow along, no worries.
Pass the line. Pass it back. One's coming back.
Oh, no, I have more.
Do you need more down there? Okay.
Pass it back. The one short.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Here you go. You don't have to share, you're grown-ups.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm the food service director, Eileen Faustich. Most people see my name on the menus or something like that. I've been here for 29 years, so I thought I won't make you read that tiny spreadsheet that we just passed out. I just want to give you some background as to where we are. Normally, we just compare last year to this year, but there's been a lot of changes over the years, especially the past 5 years with the pandemic. So just to get you started, you already know, you probably have eaten school lunch, but we provide nutritious meals at an affordable price. We're nonprofit, we're self-sustaining, so we have to pay for all of our expenses out of the income that we get from selling meals to students. We offer free and reduced price meals. We're funded primarily by federal reimbursements and the lunches, the price that parents pay for their students to eat lunch at school. So, but there's some operational differences between last year and this year. So last year our reimbursement rates, we get reimbursed by category, by meal category. So if your child qualifies for a free meal, last year we got reimbursed $4.41 for our meal, for a lunch meal. Reduced is 30 cents less than that. So a reduced per family, they would pay 40 cents for lunch. And paid means you're paying full price, but we got 85 cents last year per paid meal. But this year, it's gone down. So part of it is that they increased our reimbursements, but this year they're going back. They're trying to trend back towards after the pandemic. They supported us financially, the government did, but now they're trying to back off on some of the supports they've given. So this year, it's 8 cents less per meal for free and reduced, and it's 37 cents less per meal for paid students. So that's part of what we get. We get reimbursed by all meals. But the other part is that in the past 2 years, we got funds from, I think there are ARPA funds. So the SMART funds were available the 22-23 school year. And I have it written down exactly what SMART meant, but SMART funds were School Meal Assistance Revenue Transfer, so they were called SMART funds. And that gave us, we got our federal reimbursement, but these funds made up the difference so that we could offer free breakfast and lunch to all students free of charge, which was awesome. Nobody paid for meals at school. It was fantastic. Participation was high for breakfast and lunch, and no one had to pay anything for meals. This year, 23-24, we have stable funds, and that's State Transition Assistance for breakfast and lunch expenses. I don't know where they came up with these things, but we got some funding this year. I think it's also ARPA funds, but that pays for breakfast free of charge for all students. So it pays the difference between the free reimbursement rate and for all students. So, and they also included free, reduced in this category. So students that qualify for reduced lunch don't pay the 40 cents per meal. But that leaves a big gap for families to return to paying for school meals, right? And it's nice that they're paying for breakfast, but lunch is more costly and more students participate in lunch than breakfast. So I put a little chart together for our lunch price history. So school year 1920, of course you remember in March 13th, we all, everybody went home and we started feeding the kids curbside. So our lunch prices were, they kind of had a range, but so at elementary, it was like $3.05, middle was $3.30, and high school was $3.55. That was for the most expensive meal. Then the next 2 years were pandemic, and we had free meals from the USDA, federal government, our reimbursement. We got reimbursed for free meals for all students, regardless of income. They didn't have to put their PIN number in by their account or anything. So that was for the next 2 years. So last year, we had what did I say they were? Smart funds last year, smart funds. So we had smart funds for all but about 6 weeks. The end, like middle of January and February, the parents had to pay for lunch. And so the meal prices are listed there. And I can only see them on my paper. I can't see them that far because I've been out of school a really long time. And my eyes aren't as good maybe as yours. But so I did go up on the price of lunch last year. Parents only paid it for 6 weeks. But it was about 30 cents a meal, which is a significant increase, but I'm not sure they had 2 years of not paying for meals at all. So I felt strongly that if we come back this year, parents haven't paid in 4 years, so I didn't want it to go higher than that. Food is high out in buying for your family. We're all feeling the pinch at the grocery store. I didn't want to go any higher. I also knew that participation was going to fall, because it fell during that 6-week period last year. It fell significantly from when they didn't have to pay to after they had to pay for that short time. So I didn't want to make it worse by increasing the lunch price, right? So this year, here's a chart of the meal participation for the average per day. So breakfast we're doing okay with. We're up an average of 280 breakfasts a day. One is that it's free, it's still free. So, and we are getting a lot of participation. A lot of kids whose families don't qualify for free or reduced are getting breakfast. We also put in, we applied for and got smoothie grants for equipment for a big immersion blender. I may have mentioned it at the beginning of the year, but not everybody, I think not everybody was here for the last board meeting I was at, but we got smoothie grants, so that's been very popular. Hundreds of breakfasts were sold during this time when we instituted that, like November, December, and we're continuing to do it. But it turned into a thing where it was the school had to provide supervision in the cafeteria, because where they didn't before, but there were so many kids trying to get a smoothie for breakfast. They were getting late to class, so we had to figure out ways to feed them all in the mornings, and because they all wanted to get it. So we had parents call and say, well, what days are you going to do it so I can carpool so that they can get to school on time. So it was really interesting. So breakfast was okay. We did okay this year so far. Their average went up by 280. Lunch, on the other hand, has dropped off 465 meals a day, which is a lot. It's about 15%. And so that is going to have financial impact. So what do we do with that? So I knew it was going to fall. The participation was going to fall. But I didn't want to increase our lunch prices any more than we did so far. And I wanted to see how it goes. So in the past 2 years, like 22, 23, and the year before that, we had a lot of supports. Like I said, we had higher reimbursements. They gave us supply chain money. They were giving us money to keep us going through the pandemic and beyond, and as we transition back to normal. So we ended with a surplus last year of almost $400,000 and $475,000 a year before. So this year, you may notice on this tiny spreadsheet that so far in the first 6 months, from July to January, we're in the negative of $187,000. Not really where I want to be, but I know that it was a decision we made so that we didn't want to impact parents any further. I knew it was going to be hard transitioning back to this place. So we may, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I also know that we are a nonprofit and we can't keep any more than 3 months operating balance in our fund balance. We can carry it over, but at some point, if you have too much in there, we have to come up with a plan to spend it. So the plan is to use the surplus funds to maintain the lunch prices like we have this year. And also replace and repair some equipment. We have a lot of refrigeration throughout the district that needs repair. We're spending a lot of money on repairs and we have to replace it because it's some of them are more than 20 years old. Some things we're replacing are the original from, I don't know what year foreign was built, but it's the original. There's warmers and refrigerations and coolers that are originals, and that's like, I don't even know how many years, but it's a long time. They've served us well, but we really have to replace them. So if I do plan that there's going to be a shortfall this year because of the equipment and the lunch price, maybe not covering all of this, all of our expenses, but rest assured, it's not something I would come back to the Board of Ed and say, bail me out for this year because I have the money in the account, we have to spend it, and I think it's worthy to spend it on trying to moderate lunch prices as we as we transition out of the pandemic and the free meals back to normal. So that is where we are financially. Does anyone have any questions?
Ms. Zerbe?
So in the surplus funds, is it that the total is over 800,000 or?
We have surplus funds of about 800,000, yes.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. Is there discussion for next year? Because I know the state covered some of this for the free meals or breakfast. Or-
Right, it was the state through ARPA funds.
Okay, so it was the ARPA, and so those all finish, I think, at the end of this year. Operating.
It's likely to end, so
And
there
so-
is efforts to try to
Excuse me.
get the state or wherever we can get money to provide free meals for all, because it really was really nice when we could do that. We could, help families. I think we helped families a lot through this time, not just free and reduced, we can help everybody. And there was no question whether you had money in your account or not, and I think it was really a good experience for the kids.
In terms of the elementary schools specifically, how is breakfast done in the elementary schools?
Breakfast is served in the cafeteria, and the students come in off the bus or when they get dropped off. The 20 minutes before they start school, they come to the cafeteria and get a breakfast, and they take it back to their classroom.
Okay. And then, I don't know if this from our school district or anything else, is food services responsible for all the refrigeration, or does that fall into our capital improvement or our budget at times, because it technically is the separate entity?
Well, we tried to cover as much as possible,
Right.
but there may be a time where it's not something that if we don't have the funds to pay for something and we need the refrigeration, that.
Right, I'm assuming that's what occurred pre-pandemic, because this was obviously an extraordinary time where we received funds that in excess of what we normally would operate, you rarely have
I've never had that kind of excess funds in the
And
account, ever.
And we've benefited greatly. I mean, I remember last year seeing all the great renovations that were done to the storefronts of all the elementary schools and things like that. And being able to do this, it's been a huge benefit to our community. I mean, the fact that we're replacing refrigerators that are like 50 years old with this money is huge. So thank you for all of your hard work on this. I know it's a large undertaking. Thanks.
Thank you. Just to clarify on the breakfast, they come in and get breakfast if they want it, right? We're not handing every child a
Right, no,
breakfast.
we are not, it's optional.
Ms. Petrosky?
So I know you don't know where we're gonna end up at the end of this year. It's pretty tenuous, but do you anticipate that that full 800K is going to end up being spent?
By the end of this school year? No.
Okay, so you think there might be enough left over to also reduce lunch prices for the next year?
That's a possibility, but I'm not sure I would be able to hold it another year.
Okay. And that was my next question. Is there a time frame that you have to spend it in when you bring it?
Well,
when you
it
bring it
used to be
forward?
6 months, but no one can spend the money that they've accumulated. No district can spend that in the 6 months. And I don't, transitioning back to the paying model is, it's, the participation falls and you have to adjust to that. So our budget's never been this, had this kind of money.
Just
It's more trying to make
to
just.
emphasize a point of clarification, we do need to hold that 3 months, or we can hold that 3 months operating budget.
Right. We do need money to operate.
So we never want to expend it all the way down, because that would put us in a situation where if a repair does occur that we need to happen, we would be in a situation where we couldn't pay for that. So we are allowed to hold up to 3 months operating budget, so we never want to fully expend that money down to zero.
Okay, and do we know what that is, that number, that 3 months operating budget approximately?
It's somewhere between maybe $900,000 and $1 million, 3 months operating.
For annually, or for the 3 months?
That's the 3 months.
This is just the excess money. This isn't the actual operating.
Right,
budget,
this
what
is
you're saying.
excess, the excess
Above
funds
and
is
beyond
above
that
and beyond the
900K
3
to
months.
1 million, okay.
And this was, the calculation was made in November, or the end of October, I should say, so.
And just to underscore, Eileen, you also are experiencing an increase in prices like everybody else. And
Yes.
have held the line on school lunches, so you're not charging more, but you're paying more for food.
Right, I'm paying more for food,
And
I'm
supplies
paying more
and
for
labor.
labor,
Right.
correct.
So we're really running it at a loss, right?
Yeah.
But without knowing what the participation was gonna be and how it was gonna go, I didn't wanna make it worse. And also, prior to the pandemic, we would sell snacks at all grade levels. And at this point, I haven't gone back to selling any snacks at the elementary. And I, nutrition-wise, that's what I'd like to stay with. Financially, maybe in the future, we would sell snacks and then we could make up some money there too. But at this point, I think it's, it's worth a try, see how we do.
Other questions on the financial piece?
Question.
Yes, Ms. Muller?
First of all, thank you for your approach to keeping the numbers up. This issue always matters. Thank you for the way that you approached it through the pandemic with the care for the families and the kids and making sure that that piece was stable for them when nothing else was. So thank you for where your heart and your team is in what you do on that. My question is, with the decision to hold the increase as the lunch prices came back online this year, and that led to this conversation, and all of that makes sense. Will we be in the same position next year with breakfasts, where those are now back into a paying position if those ARPA funds aren't continued and extended in some way from the state or wherever that pot of money, as you said, may be? Will we be in the same position next year because of the decision to ease the breakfast prices back online as well? And will there be enough excess funds potentially projected and forecasted for that? Or is there a different calculus at play
Well,
with the
I think-
breakfast than there was with the lunches this year?
It's a good question, not one I've actually thought about yet. So I think we have to wait and see. We can go a little further into the school year and then be able to figure out where we are.
What's possible.
And what is possible.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Other questions on the financial piece? Okay, now we have the healthy foods. Right,
yes.
We're gonna need a vote on this.
Yes, correct.
What's that?
I said we need technical connect.
Okay, part 2 is the participating in the Connecticut Healthy Food Certification for next year. And this is an option for the Board of Ed that every Board of Ed must vote on. You must vote on to participate or not. And we have participated in this program for the past, I think, 13 years. And there's a few good reasons to participate. And one is that you have a healthier school nutrition environment that supports student learning. The guidelines are focused on nutrient-dense foods, whole grains, and the third one is portion size, moderating portion size. So that's what the general guidelines are for the Connecticut standards, nutrition standards. The second thing that it does is that a good reason to do it ties into our finances because there is a financial incentive. We, in the food service department, get 10 cents per meal. If you participate in this program, we get 10 cents per meal for every meal we sold last year. So if we sold 100,000 meals, lunch meals, I should say, then we would get $10,000 for participating in this program, which is helpful. We normally get around probably between $40,000 and $50,000, I believe. And you have the option to participate in this program, but you can exempt foods at events, and that minimizes the negative part of restricting to just healthy foods. So for example, if there is an event on the weekend, a football game or a play or a game that student groups or would like to sell food or snacks at, they're allowed to do that if you choose to participate in this program and exempt those events. So those are the 3 reasons why it's a good idea to participate. These guidelines, if participating, it's district-wide, every school. It's not, you can't say, no, we don't want to do it at the high school, but we want to do it everywhere else. It's district-wide. It includes school stores and vending machines, the cafeteria, of course, and fundraising activities on school premises and any other food source that it comes up. So you can't sell food that doesn't meet the guidelines during the school day. And everybody has to follow those guidelines. So if you want to exempt food, you have to meet 3 criteria. One is that it has to be sold at an event. You can't make up an event. You can't say we're having a donut sale tonight after school. It has to be at an event of some other sort. You can't make up the food event. It has to be sold at the location of the event, and it can't be sold at a school store or vending machine. So, which is pretty easy to do. We've done it for 13 years. Everybody's pretty aware of the program and follows the rules. Beverages, we can only sell milk, non-dairy milk, 100% fruit or vegetable juice, water or juice beverages like a fizzy juice, like a carbonated juice, or plain water and flavored water, almost like with an essence. You can't have anything with added sugars, sweeteners, or artificial sweeteners, and you can't have anything more than 12 ounces that is not water. But you can exempt beverages at events, the same criteria. If it's at an event, after the school day is over, on the weekends, It has to be sold at the location of the event, and they cannot be sold by a vending machine or a school store. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and if not, you can vote on whether to participate, and then if you'd like to exempt.
Questions on this piece? No? It's a lengthy motion, so bear with Ms. Petrowski.
Thank you. Make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approve the implementation of the healthy food option pursuant to CGS Section 10-215F. The Milford Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut Nutrition Standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut Nutrition Standards during the period of July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Mr. Fermender. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have motion number 2.
Make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approve exempt food and beverages. The Milford Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut Nutrition Standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Second by Mr. Fermender. Any discussion on the exemption? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Faustich.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you back in August.
Board members, we're going to take a second look at policies and hope for your approval this evening. The first policy we'll look at is 5111, school age entrance. Bring your attention to the change that was made on this policy is in blue. We added language to specify that this is for kindergarten entrance, starting July 1st, 2024, moving it to the age of 5 on or before September 1st. Any questions?
There were 2 things you were going to check on. Using the word 21, the age of 21. Is that correct? We just wanted to make sure that was correct versus
22.
Right.
So this is on page 3 of 5 and page 4 of 5 for the 2 places.
In the second paragraph, right?
First paragraph under age of attendance.
Age of attendance on page 3
Yes,
of the
sorry.
first paragraph.
Under 22. Thank you.
Okay. And then on page 3, the very last sentence before, the very last words, before the legal reference, a child who has attained the age of 19 or older may be placed in an alternative school program or other suitable educational program if he or she cannot acquire a sufficient number of credits for graduation by age 21, it says.
22.
20.
Okay. So those changes will be made. And I think there was a question in accordance with the, under ages of attendance, again on page 3. In accordance with the Connecticut General Statute 10-186, should that be the board shall provide or the district shall provide?
We agreed to
The
board
Okay.
and review. We wanted to keep that as board.
Okay. Any questions on this, board members? Christina, do you have a motion?
Trustee amended on this one? Motion that the Milford Board of Education approve board policy 5111, school age entrance, admission, placement, and ages of attendance as amended by the administration.
Second that.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Moving on to 5131.7. So we added a definition for facsimile, which is there for your consideration on page 2. We changed the word activities to observances. Additionally, we did some homework on Gun-Free School Zone Act. We provided that for you last Friday. The act itself, we checked with council, and they do not recommend any modification of language to make exceptions. Law will trump policy, and quite honestly, that would be in the hands of the police department if a situation like that were to occur. So we are recommending to this board that we not make any modifications in the paragraph referring to the Gun-Free School Zone Act.
Questions from board members?
Oh, and there's a little, instead of which, there's a that on the last paragraph of the first page.
Ms. Mahler?
I have a small question on the fact, I promise, on this facsimile paragraph. In reading it, facsimile is a replica or imitation of any instrument, article, substance, or device that is capable of causing, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a replica of a device that is capable of causing those things? Or is that a replica of those things that is capable of causing?
Of those things that is capable of causing.
So the replica is capable of causing, not the replica is of something that is capable of causing. See the distinction? A paper gun can't shoot you, but it's the replica of something that can. So is this language intended to apply to the replica, the facsimile that's not capable of doing those things, but it's of an item that is capable of doing those things? Or is it intended to apply only if that facsimile is capable of the same actions? I think it's a comma. That's what I'm asking.
It's the first description.
So
the facsimile doesn't necessarily
have to cause the damage.
The capability to do damage, right?
Okay.
It could be a 3D printed gun, and that has no ability to harm, but it is something that looks like a gun that can harm you.
Okay. That was the clarifying, because reading
So
that
do I
is-
need a comma somewhere?
I don't believe so, because the way that you have described it, it matches what is in here, but it wasn't clear to me if that was the intent or not.
Other questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Motion that the Milford Board of Education approve board policy 5131.7, weapons and dangerous instruments as presented by the administration.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Mr. Fermender has seconded. Any further discussion on the policy? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And finally, 6148, FAFSA completion program, there are no changes.
Do we have a motion, Ms.?
Motion that the Milford Board of Education approve board policy 6148, FAFSA completion program as presented by the administration.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, board members. Turn things over to Mr. Brennan for the disbursement report.
Thank you, Dr. Kataya, Ms. Glenn, members of the board. In your package, you will find a list of all the expenditures for the month of February over the amount of $1,500. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Brennan? I see none. It was pretty straightforward this month. Thank you.
Thank you.
And turn things over to Ms. Capazna for the Talent Management Development Report.
Okay, thank you. So you have included in my report the job postings, personnel recommendations, retirements, resignations, terminations, and stipends appointments. This month, we've highlighted our spring sports stipends at both Jonathan Law and Foreign High School. I wanted to let you know we are at 4 retirements. One came in this month, it's on the report. And I wanted to give you some great news that an hour before this meeting, we hired a science teacher over at the academy. So we are making progress.
Very good. Questions for Ms. Kapasner? Is 4 retirements at this time of year low, or?
Not really.
Not really?
No, yeah, it's
Okay.
hit or miss every year. A lot will come in the springtime. People, I think, are just still trying to decide. Maybe they don't want it announced publicly.
Get spring fever and decide you
Yeah,
don't want
exactly. Yep. Yep.
No questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Kapasner.
Thank you.
That completes the superintendent's report, Ms.
Thank you, Dr. Kutaya. Consent agenda, motion, Ms. Petrosky.
Motion that the Milford Board of Education approve consent agenda items, minutes for consideration, February 12, 2024 business meeting, February 26, 2024 committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Mr. Fermender. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Board comment? Any board comment? Mr. Well?
Since we had the athletic report last month, I think it was, the Milford, the students who joined, the girls' team, sorry, it's late. The Hampton team won the SEC girls hockey, which was not something we talked about. So I think it's great for us to have opportunities for students to join and be part of those collectives and be able to be part of a winning team and to generally try hard and win.
Other board comment? Ms. Petrosky?
I just wanted to say thank you to the administration for a great job on the walkthrough of the elementary schools. It was both enlightening and interesting and helpful for us, I think, as a board to understand the needs. So thank you.
2 more coming.
Yes. Mr. Fermender?
Just one thing, quickly, I just wanted to echo what was said by the public comment. The performances by both the foreign and law drama clubs were fantastic. It was unbelievable. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to go. I went to both, and it was great to see the people that were involved, and just the Saturday night, the attendance from the students. They were just loud, and they were really supporting their classmates, and it was a great show. I mean, both were, but it was just you needed earplugs when these kids started screaming. It was unbelievable. So I want to say great job to both drama clubs, and we're lucky to have them.
Other board comment? So I agree with you, Mr. Fermender. I went to the plays myself, both of them, and they were fabulous. I know it took me, law was so crowded, it took me forever to get in and get my seat. I also went to a Pumpkin Delight School Science Fair that was put on by the PTA. It's always fun to go and see the kids doing there's lots of great little experiments that they did. The parade was also very well attended, so I'm glad the rain held out, and the bands from 2 high schools were exceptional. So.
And Electrify Your Choir is Friday night. If you haven't gotten your ticket, contact Pam. And a moment of privilege, if that's okay?
Sure. Do we need a ticket, or is it just bring your invitation?
Bring your invitation. All right, just bring your invitation.
It's in an email, yeah.
Yeah, you can fill out the Google form.
March is Board of Education Appreciation Month, and so we just want to extend our words of gratitude to each and every one of you for your service to our young people in this community. We just want to enjoy a little succulent plant for you from us as just of a little token of our appreciation for your work.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need tips to keep it alive?
Don't water it once in a while.
I had the same question, but I
Attend an elementary science class.
Okay, I will ask.
I think it requires water,
little bit of water.
You've redone the STEM curriculum since, the last however many years, yeah.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Food once a month.
Motion to adjourn.
Anyone opposed to adjournment at 9:18? No. Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks for the committee of the whole. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.